Andrea. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here because we are going to be talking about a very important topic today about how to get your staff involved with social media, your new staff, right? So every school year starts with a lot of excitement with all of your staff, but you've got a new group of staff members. And this year it just seems like maybe there's more because of retirements and things like that. And I've got our most frequent guest, Heidi Feller, my Chief Inspirational Officer, is here to really break down how to best get new staff involved in your social media efforts. She's going to talk about getting in front of them, what to say, how to get them involved right from the get-go, like right away, and then give some great tips. And along with this podcast interview is an amazing blog that has a checklist, that has some email templates. I mean, it's got examples. You guys are not going to want to miss it. So check out the show notes and you'll find everything there. Now, as you are getting ready for back to school time, I just want to remind you of all of the resources that we have absolutely for free over on my website, socialschool4edu.com/resources. You guys, I have a whole page, over 20 free downloads of handouts and idea sheets and 100 ideas and best practices and how to respond to negative comments online and so much more over on my website. So I invite you, as you're thinking about social media for this new school year, getting not only new staff but existing staff excited, please visit socialschool4edu.com/resources and access some of those free tools to help you out. So now let's get started with today's interview. Okay, it's time for today's K12 PR tip. Every podcast, we like to give you a little tip or trick that's going to help you with your social media efforts. And today it's really just a reminder. You guys, social media is a great tool to not only have your community feel engaged and involved and know what's going on at your school, but social media is a critical piece to staff, for your staff to feel engaged, for your staff to know what's going on in the school around them besides just what's happening in their classroom. It can be a big morale booster. Social media can also be an incredible way to attract staff members into your district or school because, it's one of the first places, especially that younger staff members look. Yes, they're going to look at your website, but they're going to look at social media. What is it like to work in a school district? What are the students like? What kind of field trips do they take? We're going to talk about these things today in the interview with Heidi, but it's just a great reminder. And I think I just wanted to carve this out as a separate tip. Part of our storytelling efforts is around making sure that our staff feels like part of the family, that they really feel involved and can cheer each other on, see what's happening. Maybe they get inspired from something another classroom teacher's doing, or it's sparked by a picture, but then it leads to a conversation with that staff member, right? And so that they can really work together, grow, and ultimately do an amazing job, educating our students while feeling really fulfilled. Don't underestimate the power of social media when it comes to your staff. And now let's get kicked off with a great idea list and really a checklist, step by step, of how to get new staff involved with social media at your school. In today's interview, you're going to laugh and you're going to learn, and that's going to be awesome. So let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, Heidi Feller.
Yay! It's so fun to be back, and I'm fully on brand.
I
I'm
know.
also I'm sweating to death. Let's be honest. 90 degrees out.
Yeah, it's summertime, so it's all good. I'm excited to have you back here on the podcast. Hopefully our listeners know who you are, but we're going to dig into all things about getting new staff involved in social media today because that's so critical. But it wasn't too long ago, Heidi, you were a new staff member, right? I mean, you used to teach before you, had a lot of, I guess, things that you did, and then obviously became our chief inspirational officer. But just introduce our listeners to yourself a little bit, and maybe tell the story when you were a new staff member.
Yes. Oh gosh, I remember those days. And I still refer to them as kids. And I just wrote, I sometimes write personal blogs, and I actually referred to my former students as kids. And one of my former students, my favorite one, Katie Schultz Valley, which I will actually send her this podcast afterwards so she has proof that she is the favorite student. So Katie said in a social media post when I posted about my blog, she said, "You keep referring to us as kids, but you do understand we're 42." So that gives you a framework of when I started teaching, which was when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So I graduated from UW-Madison and wanted to be a German teacher for a myriad of reasons, but one of which is that my German teacher, Jerry Springstead, was just so inspiring to me. And I just loved the idea of teaching about another culture and another language and all of those things. So think back to 1990. Let's not go there. And it's my first day of teaching at Waukesha North High School. Oh my gosh, so nervous. So nervous in the new staff meeting, so nervous in the all staff meeting, so nervous in the classroom. And I really wish there would have been social media at the time. I honestly do, for so many reasons. First of all, is that I feel like I did the greatest things in class, inspired by all of those other teachers. And I wish the world could have known about it instead of me having to tell parents at conferences. But I will also say a really big reason too is that I was asked for my pass in the hallway for the first entire year of teaching. And I went home and cried every night. Every night. Every day I'd have to explain to somebody, no, I don't need a pass. I'm the teacher. So I feel like social media would have helped that.
You have to share that picture. We'll link it in the show notes, your first year teaching. Because then
That's
people understand, like, she did really look young. You still look young. So
awesome.
people won't believe that you have students that are now 42. But that's a great memory of just being that first year teacher, right? So many jitters.
So many jitters and just so wanting to um, do the best job that I could, be the best team member that I could at Waukesha North, and inspire those kids to want to go see the world, right? Specifically, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, but go see the world. So social media would have been really awesome to have. I'm glad we have it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting back, ready to get back to school. And I feel, I don't know if maybe this is just in my school, but I do feel like there's a lot of new teachers this year, Heidi. I think a lot of teachers retired after this last
Mm.
year and a half that, were eligible. Like, hey, they've been through a lot. But there's a lot of new staff members, and whether they are fresh out of college and this is their first teaching job, or they're transitioning from another school, now is the time to really get those new staff members involved in your social media storytelling efforts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to get off on the right foot. Because they're really excited. They have that same sense of, oh, I hope I'm a great team member, and I hope I inspire my students, and I hope that all of those things. And so why not start off on the right foot immediately with them? Let them know that they get to tell their story in lots of different ways, but certainly on social media, right?
Yeah. And you recently broke it down in a blog, and we're going to link that in the show notes as well, of just really truly a checklist of how to get new staff members involved in social media. And I love this. I want you guys to refer to this, but let's just talk through how would we go about getting new staff members involved.
Number one thing is to get in front of them. That is the number one thing, is FaceTime in front of them. I know that so many of us who work in school PR probably almost always at this point have a seat at the table when it comes to fall in service for all staff. And I know that you might think to yourself, well, gosh, all staff does include new staff. So cool. Two birds with one stone. Wrong. I completely disagree if that is your thoughts, no disrespect. I really believe that you need to grab these little birds right when they come. You knew I was coming with a metaphor. Wait for the sports one. You want to grab these little birds and you want to give them just a couple of little breadcrumbs and you want to follow them, right? And you want them to drink the Kool-Aid. Now I'm mixing metaphors. You want them to drink the Kool-Aid and love every minute of it in terms of storytelling right from the beginning. So, number one thing is make sure that you get in front of new staff during that entire week, lots of times of new staff in service. 10 or 15 minutes should do the trick. Certainly, you'll be talking about social media. That's what we'll be concentrating on for the rest of this podcast. But of course, you'll talk to them about other things, right, that have to do with communications. So,
Okay.
that's the number one thing.
Okay, awesome. So now we've got the time. We're in front of the staff. What do we tell them? Because sometimes I think like we could be overwhelming. I mean, right? They've got a lot of information coming at them. So, what are some of the most important things that we should make sure to cover with these new staff members?
Mhm. So, have you ever been in front of a new staff training and listened to the things that come before and after?
Yeah, it's really boring.
Oh my God. Literally, and I can't handle boring. I cannot. So trust us when we tell you you are the highlight. I actually have gotten that email before. You were the highlight of the entire week. Really? Those 10 minutes? That's a long time. Okay. So that's the good news is that you're the most going to be the most entertaining person that they'll probably see. I would suggest pulling up a really great Facebook post and well performing, you get to see the insights on the screen behind you. And then I would say, hey, we have the joy, the right, and the responsibility to tell our district's story. Here are some of the things that you need to know. And the best part about the next 15 minutes is I need you to get your phone out. So get your phone out. They've all been dying to see what's going on their phone anyway. And so once they have their phone out, then share your district wide social media channels with them. So now you're flipping the screen behind you, right? Start with Facebook. If that's all you have, awesome. That's why 3 billion people use Facebook. Show them Instagram, show them Twitter. Because if they are on those channels, they will have that app loaded to their phone and they can go ahead and follow along. Ding, now you've got new followers. Great. So now they have that step one done, right? And then now that they have their phones out, right, you're going to show them how to maybe interact on each of those channels. Keep it brief, keep it brief. But I think that, on Facebook, you want to show the power of them interacting with a post on that page, liking, commenting, sharing, and what the difference of those is. Again, keep it brief. But these are things that they're going to understand. Pop over to Instagram. Show them. If you double tap, here's what happens. Here's our stories if you're using Instagram stories, that kind of a thing. And then on to Twitter, of course. Are you following the hashtag? Are you following the account? Are you on Twitter? Don't make them get on that channel if they're not on that channel, if you get my drift. Like, let them be comfortable where they're at. So I think that's the first step
Yeah,
because
and
it's super interactive and it's very visual.
Yeah, and I think also just kind of explaining to them the first step of getting involved is just maybe making a comment of, "Hey, that's so great," or, "Way to go," whatever the event is or thing that's going on. It's one way of getting your name out there in regards to being new to a community. I guess I would also just make sure that if they're worried about like getting friended by a bunch of I don't know, people they don't know, make sure they're checking their own privacy settings as well. But it is a good way to just show them how to interact and how much it means to the school when they do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's easy for them then to see, and maybe they've already done that so many times. We hear in this industry now that potential new staff members, just like potential families, are actually checking out a district's social media channels to see what their story is. What points of pride do they have? How do they educate kids? What kind of field trips do they take? What do they have a school forest? Reedsburg has two. Those types of things. those are interesting things to see. And so they may already be familiar with the district social media channels, but I think that the interactive part and being a participant and a fan first, right? Because they get more of a sense of a feel of what it means to be part of that district's team. So that would be my first thing that I would say.
Okay,
Um,
awesome. Then what?
the second, yeah, then I think the next thing is that you have to make it as easy as possible, and walk the walk, talk the talk, show them how they can get involved and help tell the story that's going to be happening in their classroom this upcoming school year. Okay, so now they've figured out how to be fans on the channels that they already are on, but you're going to tell them part of my role as the school communicator is to help celebrate our students and staff and connect our schools to our community using these channels you just checked out. And my ask of you is this, that you send in for our districts. We're just going to use the example. We would like each staff member to send in 2 items per month. All it takes is a simple email. You're going to have that email address behind you, right? Behind you on the screen. And a simple email, a great photo, a concise description, and I promise to take the storytelling from there. I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to ask you to send a test email right now. So make sure you still have your phone out. Social media at whatever your district's is or whatever that email address is. Tell them, say, send a test email right now. Boom, done. 30 seconds. You're like, that's how easy that is. You're taking the photos in your classroom with your phone in the first place. Now you can simply email them to me right away. That's how simple that is. And then give some time, just like you did with the first part, when they were perusing the channels they are already on, give them some time to go ahead and do this. Yeah?
Yeah. And then
Cool.
that email is already going to be in their phone. So if, a lot of ours are social media at reedsburg.k12.wi.us or whatever, that when they start typing in SOC, that email is already going to be there for them. And so instantly, Heidi Feller in 1990, whatever, would have been taking those cool pictures from her German class when she got started and had a way to say, hey, this is what we're doing, or a little video or whatever, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would have already known how easy it was to do because the school PR person at new staff training showed me how to do it. And if you believe that you have young staff members get this stuff right away, right? Because somehow they were born with a cell phone directly like out of the womb. And the older folk in the room are like, wait, what? How does that work? And so feel free to put some pictures on the screen behind you. Let people walk around while they're doing it. Give people a little bit of time to actually do this and complete this step because it really does. I would say it's probably the most powerful thing that you'll do to show them how easy it is to help tell the story of your district.
Right. And I'm assuming kind of next is also like showing them some examples of what you'd want them to send in, because I think it's so powerful when you actually, instead of just saying, well, send stuff from your classroom, well, look at this activity or look at this little video or, right?
Absolutely. Pull out 3 or 4 examples of raw material and what it looked like when it came to you as the person who posts out on social media. So take your best second grade teacher. Her name is Stacy Stecker. And well, just saying it. And show her, show what Stacy sends in. Stacy's super adept at this. She sends in the best 3 or 4 photos. She puts a great title like second graders at the zoo, and then she has maybe like 2 or 3 sentences in there, and that's it. I know some of our staff members like to be the storytellers and they like to be the creative writers, but I think there's a lot of power in showing that very simple example of the raw material so that staff members who aren't maybe creative writers, the math teachers in the room, which now all the math teachers are going to be angry with me because they're like, we can write. But the idea that they don't have to be like quippy and funny and put the right emoji in, we just need some good information so that they understand it. Give them an example of a short video and how it is that the best way to share a video. Because the number of emails/texts that I used to get when I was embedded in the district of, I can't make this video, it's too long, it won't send. Show people how. Show them how to do it in Drive. And for that matter, make sure then that teachers or your new staff members who are sitting in that meeting do then get the Drive app on their phone. That makes that easier as well. So, and in that, then you can also start to give them some tips and tricks. So now they know how to send raw material. But let's say they're out on Instagram as a classroom account or on Twitter as a classroom account. Show them how to tag the district, show them how to use the district hashtag, make sure they know it. Hopefully, you have given them all of the things branded for your district, right? You've got the coffee mug and the pencils and the shorts and the right, all of it. But just say, this is our hashtag, so make sure that you're using it, that kind of a thing. So,
Sure, sure. Okay, so now they kind of know where the channels are. They know how to participate and how to get you things. I'm imagining if there's any, because people will be like, well, I don't really know what I can send and can't send. And so policies, procedures, is that something we should cover as well?
I would absolutely. If you have a general board policy that says, hey, this is where it is, and this is what, you can always send that link afterwards. Go over just the nitty and the gritty, the most important part. If you have something super specific, make sure that you actually are going over that. So, for example, if your district has a policy that you are not allowed to follow a student, to be friends with a student, et cetera, until that student graduates, then by all means, make sure that that is written on the screen behind you, big and bold. But also, while you're talking, as I said before, be sure that you've got an email teed up with all of this information that you can send them right after new staff things so they can bookmark it and hang on to it in case they forget or they're overwhelmed with information, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that the covering policies and all of that might be a little boring and you can't cover everything. But the great thing about getting to meet them in person is they now know your face. Like if they have a question about, oh my gosh, I'm really worried about this, or I'm worried that I got my college friends going to tag me in a picture, and then, whatever that they might be worried about, at least they know who to come to so that they can get help, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Specifically on those policies, that if they have any questions, they know the person to email, they know what his or her face looks like, that kind of a thing. One other thing I will say is that if you are in a smaller district or even a mid-sized district and you are the school PR person, after you're done with this new staff meeting and after you're done with the regular fall in service, make a point of not chaining yourself to your desk and getting out to each of those buildings, because it is all about relationship building. And make a special point when you're in each of those buildings to pop in and wave at that new staff member. They're scared to death that they're going to get asked for their pass in the hallway. No, they're terrified and excited and all of those things. And to see a friendly face and for you to even pop in and give a bit of encouragement of like, that is adorable what is going on there, right? Or darling, that's my new favorite word. That is darling. You should send that to me at the social media email address. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Those little bits really just help set the tone for sure.
Yeah, this ties into an incredible interview that I've got coming up in a couple weeks on the podcast with Veronica Johansson, and how she uncovers stories about their staff members. She's got a specific strategy. I'm so excited for you guys to listen, but it's all about not chaining yourself to the desk, especially when this last year and a half we really have been, because we haven't been able to get out into the classrooms. And so now hopefully that we can just being that face and then building those relationships, it will help everything in regards to being able to celebrate your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the most important. Human beings want to see each other again, eyeballs, all the face. Let's hope we can keep doing that. They want to reconnect. They want to, like, come on, guys, we need to blow the top off the storytelling. That's super important. I'm looking forward to listening to that one as well.
Yeah. So now, what about trying to get the staff involved right away? I think there's something that we usually do with our new staff. Can you kind of share what that would be and what that might look like if you were going to do that almost right in your meeting with your new staff?
Yeah, I think there are two things that you can do. The first thing you can do, and I've done this before, you can get on a table. No, just kidding. But I did do it. You can get on a table and you can be like, dude, we're doing a selfie. everybody behind me, right? And then it's like, hey, new staff members, that kind of thing. Again, I was on the page, so people understood that.
Well, they
Or
they they don't understand you're a little bit shorter too, which is why you got asked for the hall pass. So you wanted to stand up on the table so you could get
I
a good
did kind of,
perspective.
yeah. Don't worry, the high school principal was having a bird. That's one of it. You know how your admin team have certain things that are like their pet peeves. And so our high school principal's pet peeve is anyone who stands or sits on the table. I get it. He's also a former German teacher. So he wants everything done correctly yesterday. So, I mean, it's love language right there. I totally understand it. Anywho, so the first thing I would do would actually be to grab a great photo of all of the new staff members and get that out immediately on all of the channels that you have for storytelling in your district. So there's a number of things that happen there. The first of which is that who doesn't want to see a picture of themselves? The answer is everybody does. And so now all of these new teachers are tagging and sharing and and blah, blah, blah. So that post goes gangbusters. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that I would ask them to actually jump in and allow themselves to be featured individually as new staff members. So we do this in our district or with our districts. Sometimes we keep it very simple, and other times we actually ask for some questions. Caveat: if you ask for some questions, that's a hurdle for some of these new staff members. So you may just want to keep it as simple as possible. And maybe you've already got a snazzy graphic ready. And what you're asking those new staff members for while you're standing in front of them is for them to send a great photo of themselves, their name, their new position, right? And maybe one personal detail. Go ahead and give them 3 seconds to do that. They can send it. They already know what the social media email address is or the email address where they're supposed to send content to. You give them 2 or 3 minutes, boom, you now have, if there's 20 people in there, you now have 20 posts. And still that group one is very important for the in the moment, and then do the other ones out over the next couple of days. But that helps get them involved immediately.
Yeah. And as I'm thinking about all of what we're going to cover, we said 10, 15 minutes. I think if you can grab 45 minutes out of that whole time, that's going to be really helpful because it's going to make sure that you don't have to rush and that you give them time to absorb what they're learning. Because what I like about what you just said is give them time to actually email that into you right then. So it's not one more thing that they have to do. Like when they get back to their classroom, they want to like get their classroom ready. They don't want to have to, get all these things done. And so just allowing them, and I know that I've been part of these new staff trainings with districts we launch with, and I still visit Chippewa Falls School District every year. And so we have a group of, 20, 30 people in there. And if they don't have a favorite photo, then we just take one. And sometimes we've got the backdrop of their hashtag Mighty Cardinals, and it's really fun. But those posts, Heidi, they go gangbusters because the whole community wants to welcome them in, and then their whole family members are so proud of the new position that they got, and so you end up adding a whole bunch of new followers to your page. It's a great feature.
Yeah, it's. I will tell you, it's some of the best ones we do. Honestly, some of the best ones we do, especially if it's a hometown person.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a hometown person who's returning, that kind of a thing. But yeah, all the sharing and the commenting and the liking. But yeah, I agree. If you can get more time in front of your new staff to allow something like that to happen, it helps create a sense of community. So if you have a super or other admin who are like, why would we waste time doing this? You will say, we're not wasting time. We're teaching these people how to be storytellers, and we're giving them a sense of family, right, and belonging and togetherness immediately. And another cool thing about whether you have 10 minutes in front of new staff or whether you have a 45-minute time slot in front of new staff is that while they might be a deer in a headlight, they might be overwhelmed, they might be losing sleep because they're having the same dream. The dream is, everybody knows it. Okay. The dream is that you can't make the room of kids be quiet. I taught high school. Now, have I ever not made kids be quiet? No, the answer is no. But it's a dream I kept having. So they're a little bit sleep deprived and they're overwhelmed. Da, da, da. The cool part is that you're going to revisit this information in a very brief form in front of the entire staff for fall in service. So those new staff members get to hear it twice. And I think that really is important, honestly.
Yeah. Definitely. So this is great because it's time for the new year. We've got a game plan. You guys know what you're going to do. But new staff doesn't just start at the beginning of the new year, right? We are often adding staff, kind of throughout the year. So, what kind of tips do you have for our listeners of how do we catch those new staff members into this process? Because they probably don't have that full, week. They probably don't get that full thing maybe until the next year. So, what do you got for that?
Right. I just think it should be part of the onboarding process. And hopefully, as the school PR or social media person, school PR person, you're somehow involved with HR. And so that there's a set, there's a set email, there's a set, maybe you get 5 minutes in front of that person because he or she, I'm thinking back to what I did. For some reason, the camera that took the new staff photo that went on your ID was in my office. Can you imagine their horror? They thought they were just like coming in to have their picture taken, and I literally accosted them. And I handed them all the things, the t-shirt, the pencil, the window cling that went on your car. And then I was like, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Well, go ahead and like systematize that, right? And so as part of the onboarding process, make sure that staff, get that email that says, hey, here are our channels. Here's how you can be involved. We'd love to celebrate you as a new staff member, regardless of whether it's November or February. So you can send your information in here, and this is how you submit stories, those types of things. And yes, part of the normal onboarding process, but perhaps once a month as the social media person or school PR person, you reach out to those new staff members, depending on how big your district is, and say, I'm sure you had time to read that. No, they didn't. And so here's the information again.
Right.
That kind of super
And
important.
actually, in the blog, Heidi broke it all down and gave you an example email, you guys. So we love to try to make things easy for you. So just take a look at that. You could totally modify that little email template, put that kind of in that standard work and procedures as far as bringing on new staff members. The other thing that we have directly linked in the blog is a couple different examples of a welcome staff social media post. And so there are a lot out there with different schools, and I'm sure you maybe have some of your own ideas, but if you're looking for an idea, you can take a look at those as well.
And remember, keep things simple. Honestly, I know people like to ask questions, but you really have to remember that unless you're the type of person like Andrea and I are, where we use all of the words and suck all of the air out of the room, so many people are freaked out by having to answer those questions. And it is absolutely a barrier, a hard stop, and an absolute no for them sending in information, about themselves so that you can celebrate the fact that they're on your team on social media. So if you sense any resistance, and by resistance I don't mean like I don't want to be featured on social media, that's perfectly fine. But if you sense any resistance, then keep it simple. Welcome, John Doe, new third grade teacher, his face on the graphic, done.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. And
We're so glad you're here. Yep,
and then you're
exactly.
going to get a ton of responses. And like you said, I just love what you referred to. Like, we're trying to make these new staff members feel like they're part of our family. And so we really want to welcome them in, and we want to give them also a voice.
Mhm.
And we know that collectively we're going to tell better stories when all of our staff members and even our students, we've done talks about including students as storytellers, when everybody feels involved. And so that's part of our job as a social media manager, is let's get these people involved, and we're going to be able to celebrate our school in a really great way this school year.
Yeah, and not just involved in the storytelling, which of course is the absolute focus of what we do every single day, but more importantly, as someone who was a staff member, more importantly for them to feel part of that district's family, your family in your district, and to see all of those points of pride, because they may be hired on to be a Spanish teacher, but it sure is important for them to understand what second grade teachers do. That's you close the loop that way. There's a real sense of buy-in from things like that.
Yeah, it's that sense of community. And I know when you're teaching, especially your first year teaching, you're very focused on your classroom. But even if they can get connected with your social media pages to be able to see this kind of thing is going on, it makes you feel part of something bigger than just what your one part is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important. I
Yeah.
can't, I actually think, I, to me, that was the bonus when we started social media when I was here in Reedsburg. Of course, I wanted that story to be out because I had spent years saying, does our community know that we do this? And Tom would be like, yes, Heidi. I'm like, no, they don't. They do not know. That's a lie. But the true, like, I was like, what? I had no clue. The number of emails that I got from staff and or just when I saw them of, I had no idea we did that in Laval. I had no idea that the third grade did this. I had no idea that Korean Fish, the chemistry teacher, came and did this every year at that elementary school. Staff don't know and they don't know each other. So let's use social media to connect them.
Yeah.
Durr,
Yeah.
right?
I love it. I love it. Well, you guys were ready for like the best school year yet. We always say that. And I think hopefully these tips and tricks in involving your new staff helped. Heidi, what a great conversation. I really appreciate your insight and of course your comedy as well.
I do have one more story if you want to hear it
Yes, well,
about.
I'm sure if listeners hung on this long and they know your stories, let's let,
So
let's
here's
let's hear it.
so eventually at the high school where I taught in that first year, the admin team realized that my youth was actually a superpower. You're gonna love this. Do you remember back in the day when you were in high school and girls would smoke in the bathroom? They don't do that anymore, right? Because this thing
Well,
would the fire.
sometimes they vape, they got
They vape. Okay, they vape. Okay, I see. I haven't been in a school bathroom in a long time. Anyway, they sent me into the girls' bathroom to bust these girls because they thought I was a student. The girls in there. So the first couple of times I was like, "I'm going to need you to come to the office with me," and they were like, "What are you even talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a teacher for real. Here's my staff ID." And you got busted smoking. It worked about 3 times, and then they got the message. And the minute I would come in, you'd hear all of the toilets flushing. Still smelled like smoke, but back in the day.
that is good. You used it to your advantage. I love it. Oh, that's funny. Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in today, and good luck with this new school year. If you use some of these, and again, we've got it all linked in the blog. Let us know how it's working because we love to give actionable advice that actually works. And you can obviously check us out on all the social media channels. Social School for edu.com is our website, and we've got different links in the show notes as well. So we will see you next time. And thanks again, Heidi, for joining us.
Thank you. See you guys next
All right.
time.
Bye bye.